Welcome, everybody. This is Roger Upchurch with Rescue Success. We got a very special guest today, Ian Bick. But before we get into him, I want to make an announcement. We have a concert showing up at July the 19th at Harley Davidson and Fishers. Henry Lee Summer is going to bring his back his oldies but goodies. And we're also going to give a card away to a veteran. We're going to give the card away at 7:30. Very emotional event, so please join us at Harley Davidson and Fishers. Also, you can check out my books, Guilty Until Proven Innocent and Brilliant Minds in Captivity. You can buy it on Amazon or where books are sold. Now, let's get to Ian. He's got a special story, and we've got a lot of things in common, and glad to be here with you, Ian.
Yeah, Roger, thanks for having me. Thanks for coming all the way from Indiana to do my show.
Yeah.
And you have a great last name. I love your name. And you got a radio voice.
Thank you very much. Well, my mom and dad, I guess, gave that to me. But like I said, we have a few things in common. We're both in the entertainment little bit business. And tell us, let's start from scratch. What's you're like, and what did you do to be in a prison camp like I did? So what's your story, Ian?
So I grew up in Danbury, Connecticut, the town over from where the studio is at. We're in Richfield right now. And, I grew up in a good family, mom, dad, brother, dog, family vacations, middle class, and, grew up, I got picked on a lot, so I went to private school, picked on for weight. I was very chubby, so I think that drove me to wanting to chase popularity a lot in high school, be like the whiz kid or, just anything that would make me popular, the kid that would do stunts or try to start a food fight or get into trouble like that. And eventually that led to me getting into promotions, doing teen nights in high school. And I would throw these little teen nights, we called them raves, rent out at local nightclub, charge to get in, have a local DJ, all of these things. And we could make 10, 15 grand a night doing that once a month, cash. That was my first step into business. And at that point, this is sophomore, junior year of high school, I knew I wasn't going to college. I knew this is what I wanted to be doing. I was passionate about it. My dad was a caterer, so I loved working with him. I loved being in the event space. I was like, this is what I want to be when I grow up. So naturally, I thought the next step was to do concerts. So I started to raise money from friends and family, and actually was successful at raising money. Where I went wrong was I guaranteed everyone their money back. I said, at the very least, you're going to get all your money back. And then I started guaranteeing people interest rate for their money too.
Wow.
So I did the two main things you never are supposed to do in business. I started doing that. And I raised all this money, a few $100,000, and I put it into concerts, put it into this electronics business that ended up being a fake electronics business and flopped very quickly. Owned a nightclub, the first one, before I took over the second one. Had a couple other ventures, and then did some stupid things with the money, like we bought jet skis, clothes, a couple trips, dinners, things like that. But for the most part, a lot of the money did go into concerts. The problem with the concert business is that you're investing in something that's not going to happen for a few months down the road, and all the business I was investing in didn't have any cash flow. And you need cash flow in business. And I was promising people their money back way sooner. Like I was saying 30 days or 60 days, they'd get their money back.
Right.
Because I was so confident in these electronics and everything I was doing. I thought it was like an investment company.
So you thought you'd sell tickets or sponsors and they'd get the money to pay your investors back.
Yeah, or the electronics, everything.
Right.
So what I was doing was when people invest money, I would take their money and pay someone else. Like I phrased them as loans. So it turned into an accidental Ponzi scheme, which I had no idea what a Ponzi scheme was at the time.
Right.
So what happens is, everything would have been fine had I not promised people a high rate of return and the concerts not lose money. What ended up happening was all the concerts bombed. Every single one. Never made money on a concert. Was super successful in high school, then do these concerts at arenas. The overhead's high. We didn't have insurance. Artists wouldn't show up. We were overpaying for artists.
Artists not show up.
Yeah, we had some artists not show up on us, cancel last minute. It was a huge disaster.
Now, were they paid a deposit?
Yeah, they were paid a deposit. It was some of these rappers that, we booked through management, and the whole thing was just one giant disaster. And before I knew it, I was like $1.2 million in debt with the interest.
Wow.
Everything failed, and I started telling lies because I didn't want to be not liked to my friends and family and saying, oh, we made a bunch of money. So I was digging myself into an even deeper hole when all I had to do was be honest from the get-go, the first show that lost money, and said, hey, we lost money. This is what happened. I'm sorry. that's it. Ended of story. Instead, I'm telling one lie, which escalates to another, to another,
Right.
to another. Before I knew it, I'm in all these lies, I owe all these people money. I'm 18 years old. And then they start going to the police, and that escalates to the feds. And by the time I'm 19, I get indicted by the
Wow.
FBI and the IRS on a 15 federal count indictment. And they said I operated a Ponzi scheme. They were comparing me to Bernie Madoff. And I didn't know who that was.
Right.
It wasn't intentional. The thing was accidental. It was a lot of bad business decisions. It was just, it was a big mistake.
Wow. So how old were you at the time when you went into the prison camp?
I was 21 because I went to trial.
21.
So I got put on bail, and then I fought it, went to trial, lost a trial on half the counts, and then I got sentenced a year later after that. So that was in 2016. I was 21 years old, and they gave me 3 years in federal prison, 1 year house arrest, and another 2 years supervised release after that first year of house arrest.
Now, did you, like all of your investors you owed, did you have restitution from did you pay any of them back, or
Yeah, so my
did you have to
restitution,
file bankruptcy or anything?
my restitution was almost $500,000. You can't file bankruptcy to get out of it. Some
Wow.
people say, like, if you wait 20 years or whatever, then it goes away or they stop enforcing it. But as of today, I only owe a little less than $200,000. So
Right.
I've paid back almost $300,000 of the money.
Wow.
So it's coming together. I'm paying it back. Not many people do pay it back or make it a focus. So all the investors will be made whole.
So you're still working on it. You still want to make them whole, and
Yeah, of course. If you
Yes.
get from almost 500 to 200,000 at that point, you might as well just finish it, you know?
exactly.
So we're
How
almost
long,
there.
and you spent how long in prison?
I did 27 months on the 36th, then I had another few months in the halfway house, and then a year on home confinement on the ankle monitor like yourself.
Exactly. So how was your experience in prison camp, and where were you at?
So I went to a bunch of places. At first, I went to a low security prison. That was rough because everyone thought I was a sex offender, a chomo, because I was young, white, didn't know any of the politics or anything. I thought I was going to go to a camp, but my points were 1 point too high to go to a camp.
Wow.
So I think they played me on that. Ended up getting caught on video on a phone. So they shipped me out. They put me in the shoe. They shipped me. I make it to Danbury, which is the town over from me,
Right.
Which was great. I was next to my family. Even though that was low security, it was smaller. People knew me, and I could see my family all the time. It was right there. Well, I'm not on the yard for more than a few hours when the guard reports that I used to date his cousin, and he'd come over for hangouts or like barbecues and stuff. And they put me in the shoe again. So I was in the shoe for like 3 or 4 months.
And you really didn't do anything because you just knew his cousin.
Exactly. And the guy was a super cop that reported we're friends and it's a conflict of interest. So then they ended up putting me on Con Air, shipping me all the way to Wisconsin, Oxford, Wisconsin.
Wow.
But that was a camp, and that was really sweet. That was exciting. It was a lot
Right.
like your experience. The bocce ball court, the frisbee, basketball courts, gym, everything. It was nice.
We had it all.
We were smuggling in food. I was the runner. I would sneak outside.
So you were the runner.
I grabbed the bags. Yeah, there was everyone was grabbing their own bags, but I grabbed bags too. But everyone at that camp at some point grabbed their own bag. Even the nerds or like the guys that are snitches or you would never expect, they're doing it too. Everyone has a phone. There's 100 inmates.
Oh yeah.
Every single one of those inmates has a phone. You walk down the hall at night, it lights up like a Christmas tree.
When I was in the camp, pretty much everybody had a phone. I didn't. I just didn't want to have a phone for some reason. I don't know why, but most people did have a phone in there.
Yeah. Camps we were talking about it on my show. Camps I think it's ridiculous. It's a waste of money. I understand why they have them. I know they're closing a lot of them down now, but when you think about it, there's got to be something more effective to do here.
Well, it's like we talked. I mean, you think somebody in a nonviolent crime that's not hurt anybody physically or anything like that are to pay it in another way, restitution, community service or whatever.
I love that that was the first I heard it, that you were telling me about how you got to work at a vet, an animal shelter.
Correct.
They should do more of that because at least you're going out and you're doing something.
And you're helping other people.
Exactly. That's more realistic, Don't just sit away at a camp eating snacks, watching TV on a cell phone. What good does that anyone do? It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. But yeah, I worked 3 different jobs when I was in camp, like I was telling you, the construction and then the dog pound and town driver. So, but no, what do you, once you got out and when now?
I got out in 2019 January.
2019.
I was 23 years
You're
old.
23 years old. How old are you now?
I'm 30 now.
You're still young.
Yeah.
And what do you do now for a living?
So when I got out, I worked at Whole Foods. I wanted to write a book and get a movie deal and be the next Wolf of Wall Street and all these things I was working on in prison.
Right.
I got out, hit up all the agents. Everyone rejected me. It was very slow. I wanted to get back in the concert industry. Thank God I didn't, because then COVID happened a year later.
Exactly.
But I didn't want to work for anyone else.
Right.
Ended up working at my friend's pizzeria, and then eventually by May of that year, I caved in and I got a job at Whole Foods. Worked my way up from a hot bar chef making $15 an hour to a manager there making almost 33 an hour. Rebuilt my life in those 3 years after prison. Got a car, a dog, a girlfriend at the time, my own apartment, good credit. Was able to really have a great life because of Whole Foods. And then in the summer of 2022, my friend convinced me to start posting content about my story in prison on social media. And because of COVID, there was this whole new network of influencers talking about prison, sharing their story on social media. So I start doing it. My 5th video goes viral talking about being in solitary. And I quit my job a couple weeks later. Didn't know what I was doing. Maxed out my credit cards in like 6 months just to live off of because I wasn't making any money. And just kept making content every day, sitting in my car, telling prison stories. Eventually, I got tired of that, and I came up with the idea for the podcast with some friends. And that was in January 2023. And a few months after that, I got my first check from YouTube. And then now here we are, 2.5 years later. It's an actual business. I have my own studio. It brings in revenue a month that I live off of. This is my only job, where when I first started, I was driving Uber, DoorDash, doing whatever I had to do to hustle, working for my dad in catering. And I paid off all my credit cards, and now I have a good business. I'm paying restitution. And more importantly, I feel like I found my purpose in life, and I'm helping others share their story that wouldn't normally get a chance to go on a professional podcast and share their story and have thousands of people genuinely interested in what these individuals have to say.
Right. I think a lot of people are interested in prison stories. You know, they're great in movies as well. I understand that you actually a few weeks ago had an interest in creating a movie, or somebody talking to you about that, or am I wrong?
I have people that are interested right now in my story. Like I finally have a book agent, which is funny all these years later, but it's better it's happened now because there's a happy ending to the story. Had I got the book published years ago, the story ends with me working at Whole Foods, barely paying any restitution.
Right.
Because you can't pay that much money back working a 9 to 5.
No.
It's just not possible unless I was a CEO making millions of dollars, which I wasn't. So now there's a happy ending. You know, I'm paying off a lot of restitution. I'm helping others. I found my purpose. And in a lot of these prison fraud type stories, you don't see that happy ending. Right. They end with just going to prison. Wolf of Wall Street ends with the credits saying he owes $100 million. It's not he paid off $100 million. So I'm glad there's a happy ending. That's going forward. We're working on developing some other prison type projects for TV. But that's not really my main focus. If it happens, great, but I'm not holding my breath on it because the TV industry sucks. The movie industry sucks. But I've been able to create my own thing where I make the rules and I put out my own content and I produce it and I edit it, and I'm able to do my own thing and live off of that. I'm not dependent on other people. And that's what social media has allowed people to do. Right.
So your podcast now, it's called Ian Bick, Locked In?
It's called Locked In with Ian Bick. It's available on Spotify, YouTube, Apple. And we have hundreds of thousands of listeners between YouTube, Spotify, Apple a month. And our clips garner millions of views a month. And the social media is growing. I mean, it started literally from the ground up. I built this blood, sweat, and tears from the ground up with 0 followers. I didn't get some big documentary that gave me 1 million followers overnight. I've grinded every single follower I had. And now I have over 1 million on TikTok, 400,000 on YouTube, 100-something thousand on Instagram. It's growing, and it's exciting to see. And there's no limit on it. That's a cool thing about this business. And not working for someone else. There's no limit. No one could tell you, oh, you stop here. And I'm at the very low end of the spectrum. There's so much more. There's the A-listers making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. They're doing all these things. So I think it's only the tip of the iceberg here.
How do you foresee the future in this the podcast business and Locked In and what you're doing from this day forward?
I think podcasting is very oversaturated. I think the prison market's oversaturated, but I think you have to put your own spin on it. For me, I found success because I'm a young kid that went to federal prison and has the perspective of a 21-year-old that went to federal prison that no one's had before. There's a lot of people that go to prison that are older that start podcasts, or more hard, you could say, like people in gangs, or they were, more violent or anything like that, and they have their perspectives, but I have an entirely different perspective, and I use that to my advantage, the way I look, the way I talk, just everything about me. And that was my different spin on it. So I think it's interesting, like you have a lot of these big interviewers that interview people about prison, but they don't have the experience that they went to prison. Like me and you can have a conversation, and I'm going to know a lot more in your life because I went to prison. I was in your shoes too. It doesn't matter if I didn't go to a maximum security or whatever. I understand the basics of prison.
Exactly.
Whereas if you go on a CNN interview with someone, or wherever, Fox, wherever, whatever you do, and that host has not been to prison before, it's an entirely different conversation. So having that lived real life experience plays to my benefit. So I use that to my advantage. And, to just grow the thing, I think there's so much potential to continue to do interviews because I'm never going to run out of guests.
Right.
I do prison guards, addicts, family members, lawyers, judges, and inmates, of course. But there's millions of people alone that have just been to prison. So when you combine all those people together, and the more stories that get out there, the more people that will want to share their story.
Exactly.
Whereas on some of the bigger podcasts, it's the same guests that do the same podcast over and over and over again. I love the stories that no one's heard of before. I like to break those stories, I love to be the first person to break it and to share those experiences with others.
Everybody that went to prison has got a story. Maybe it's not a really good story or a great story. I think my story is not great, but I've got a story, and I made a lot of money and lost a lot of money, but I had fun doing it. So you think the future in your podcast now? How often do your podcast? Is it weekly?
I do 5 episodes a week now.
5 episodes a week.
Yeah, I could probably do 7, but that would be a lot. But I do 5 episodes a week, and it's people from all over the country that come out here.
And they're posted the social media, YouTube, and all TikTok. Right after you do them?
Yeah, so when I'll put the full length out, and then we start making clips and put the clips on all the smaller platforms to drive engagement to the bigger episodes.
Gotcha.
We do the most exciting clips. Like, I'll give you an example. When in our conversation, you told that funny ankle monitor clip. That's a funny story. You put that all over social media. People are like, this guy never went to prison before. What is he talking about? Why did he go to prison? So there's interest. They see the clip. They're going to go find that episode on Locked In and watch the full episode. It's all marketing, It's like the concert business.
Each episode, like my episode with you, you'll see numbers on that after it's posted for a while.
Yeah, you'll see you see all the data, you see revenue, you see views, everything, and not every episode does the same because some guests are not good at storytelling, or the audience just didn't resonate with that guest, and that's fine. Right. You're not going to, when you have so many different people, you're not going to hit it home, but that's why I do so many episodes. People could pick and choose. Right. And also, if I sat there and told my story and did a solo podcast every episode, people would get bored of me. Correct. So I try to sit back, not talk too much throughout the episode, and let the guest run with the story. But sometimes you got to help the guest tell their story too. Exactly.
Well, like you were talking a minute ago, when I went to the prison camp, I was 69 years old. You were 21 years old. Mm-hmm. Big age difference there, and I had a breeze going through the prison camp. I thought it was just a waste of time, but it was sort of fun, and the thing, you're not with your family and things like that. But I really appreciate what you've done and the podcast and everything with prisons and other people telling their stories and helping other people survive after they've been out of the prison and prison camps. And so, but I'm sure you do a lot of podcasts with some hard criminals.
I do everything. I mean, you have the gangbanger stories, you have the shot callers. But if you did that every time, the audience loves those and they do well. Right. But it would get boring to hear the same thing too. So I like to switch it up. I have people from all over. I love the stories that you would never expect. I had a judge in here the other day, a young judge who went to prison. You would never expect him. He's a family guy ever to go to prison.
Right.
He made one mistake, got obstruction of justice, and got a year in prison. That episode comes out this week. I love looking at people.
And then he became a judge.
No, he was a judge and got sentenced to prison.
Oh, he was a judge when he was sentenced.
Yep, lost everything and went to prison.
Wow.
As a judge. I was my first ever judge on the show. So, I love those stories. You look at you you would never guess he went to prison. You could be someone's dad, their grandfather, it just doesn't.
Exactly.
That's, I think, is so interesting, and that's the hook, and that's about normalizing people going to prison and making it acceptable, My problem with society is they'll take you and then they'll stick you next to someone who's tatted up with the face tattoos or everything, who has turned their life around, is a family man, is a great guy, has nothing to do with it. They'll put you two next to each other, and they're going to automatically treat him differently than they treat you because they think he went to prison based on his looks. Little do they know you went to prison too, and you had the same struggles as he did, everything.
Exactly.
And no matter what yard you went to, everyone has had to squat and cough and get stripped out.
Exactly.
And that's what everyone shares in common. You might not have all been handcuffed. You might not have seen violence. You might not have experienced all these things. But the two things is you're going to be stripped out and you're going to be away from your family. And you have that feeling that not everyone understands in life.
Exactly.
And I think that's what makes you guys interesting, individuals like that.
Yeah, it was a time for me, 2.5 years. And like you mentioned before, looking back at it, it went really quick. When it was there, it was probably pretty slow, but it's still just a waste. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that people like you and to get out of prison camp and you're taking a positive or negative and turn it into a positive and turn it into a business. And I really congratulate you on doing that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's all about turning pain into purpose.
Exactly. So, one other thing, you're right now, are you single?
Yeah.
And this is your full-time job?
Yep, I do this, just focus on this. And me and my best friend lives with me, Matt, who you met out there and you've been talking to. And we've just been, he's helping me. It's fun. It doesn't really feel like work some days. Sometimes it gets stressful because there's so much going on. Right. People want to talk to you. People want to pull you away. Everything's very scheduled in my life now. Mm-hmm. But I'm trying to make more time for family and fun and doing things and just, going with the motions. Fantastic.
Well, thank you very much for letting us hear your story. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to your story or today?
No, I mean, I appreciate you taking the time with me. I'm glad we got to do this. Not every time I'm able to have the time to do something like this with it being unscheduled. So
exactly,
I'm glad it worked out and that you have a podcast that I was able to hop on. We were able to do it in here and high quality version of it for you guys.
Well, I appreciate that very much, and hopefully continue success. And again, this is Ian Bick with Locked In Podcast, and I'm Roger Upchurch with RescueSuccess.org. Take a look at us, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.